The scarab chose you, but it belongs to me.
Whatever you can imagine, I can create.
Let's party.
Theaters August 18th.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. DC just dropped a brand new Blue Beetle trailer, so we'll break it down. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff happening right now because The Flash is coming out, so I'll explain how everything is connected and what's going to be happening going forward with the reboot, because James Gunn also just did a big podcast recently sort of clarifying where everything fits the next couple of years, especially with the movies that are still coming out this year, like Blue Beetle, the Flash movie, Aquaman 2. I'm also doing a giveaway for tickets to the Flash movie. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your favorite moments from the Blue Beetle trailers on the video. I do have a bunch of videos for the Flash post-credit scenes, full breakdown, Easter eggs, all that stuff coming out later this week after it comes out in theaters. So don't worry, I have a bunch of stuff planned for that. There's so much stuff going on in that movie that we have to talk about. But we get a little new footage of Jenny giving Jaime Reyes the Blue Beetle scarab at Cord Industries when he thinks he's going to get the job in the Big Belly Burger case. The funny thing here, there's so many Easter eggs in this trailer. If you watched any of the Arrowverse shows like Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, like any of the Arrowverse shows just in general, Big Belly Burger is a big DC location. They used it many times on all those series.
You know the value of service.
You've only got one belly,
You don't have to tell me that.
so why not treat it right?
I'm starving. Here's a Big Belly Burger.
At Big Belly Burger, we put our best ingredients into our burgers
Now that's what I'm talking about.
so you can put the best burgers into your belly.
So this one has the triple stack. That's for you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, dig in.
It's kind of comforting to know that no matter what city you go to, Big Belly Burger is always going to taste like Big Belly Burger.
You mean full of grease and salt?
I thought those were the secret ingredients.
Hell no, ma'am. Quite the opposite. Even superheroes eat here for the super quality.
So now what?
Now, we go get a Big Belly Burger.
There better be curly fries in there.
Big Belly Burger, now serving Star City and Central City. Coming soon to National City.
We know the value of service.
Kind of makes me want a burger right now, too. They're in Palmyra City, Florida, which is a reference to Ray Palmer's version of the Atom. There was a Ryan Choi version of the Atom in the Justice League Snyder Cut, but according to Zack Snyder, I don't think we were supposed to see him become the Atom, like wear the full suit, go full Atom until later movies. I don't think they'd ever planned on doing an Atom solo movie, but I think the plan was for him to return in the Cyborg solo movie that they had originally wanted to do years and years ago that would have featured him just continuing to work at Star Labs, because that would have been a big location in the movie. They never really explained what happened to the Ray Palmer Atom in the Snyderverse, but they probably would have just explained his story through Ryan Choi's storyline. There's a much bigger scene of him fighting Carapax later in the movie without his mask on, confirming that it won't just be his consciousness inside a robot like the comics. It'll be more traditional, with him working for Victoria Cord in trying to kill him using another suit built by Cord Industries to take the Scarab back by force. But in the comics, Carapax started out as a normal human who was a villain to the original Blue Beetle way back in the day, Dan Garrett. During his many fights against Dan Garrett, he discovered a secret lab belonging to Ted Cord's uncle, more connections to the second version of Blue Beetle. The lab contained an indestructible suit of armor that you see in the trailer here. He couldn't get it to work and wound up electrocuting himself, killing himself. His mind got transferred into the robot, so he basically became this immortal robot with the mind of a human. And because he was immortal, he just eventually lived on to become a villain to the second version of Blue Beetle, Ted Cord. So 50-50 on whether or not Carapax survived the end of the movie, like whether or not Blue Beetle winds up killing him in their fight, or he decides to turn good and somehow dies after trying to help Blue Beetle. His villain name, Carapax, is also a reference to the hard exoskeletons that a lot of animals, particularly bugs, beetles in this case, have, like they're both wearing suits, even though the Reach themselves had nothing to do with Carapax. He's like an earlier Golden Age villain that then transitioned to the Silver Age. It seems like what's happening with the Reach in the movie is there'll just be light references to them, like there'll be a couple scenes where they allude to what's happening with the Reach in general. You start to see it broadcasting signals, more cosmic-looking scenes. I think they'll just reference what's going on then in the history of the Reach. And when they start digging into the history of the Scarab, like how Ted Cord originally found the Scarab, what happened with the Dan Garrett version of the Blue Beetle, how he found the Scarab, the way they're talking about the movie, like the way James Gunn has been talking about the DCEU going forward, it sounds like there won't be a Blue Beetle sequel movie, even though this movie looks solid. It's meant to be like a smaller movie. It seems like it'll be a lot of fun. The way that James Gunn and the other people behind DC now are talking about the Blue Beetle character, especially some of the trade magazines recently, say that Blue Beetle is probably going to cross over in the Booster Gold HBO series that they're going to be working on the next couple of years, but they didn't say when that's coming out. There's been a long history of Blue Beetle and Booster Gold crossovers in the comics, and if you watch Smallville episodes back in the day, there was a big crossover with those characters with the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle.
Clark, you're an XL, right?
They haven't said who's going to be playing the Booster Gold of the new James Gunn DCU, but if James Gunn said that a bunch of his Guardians of the Galaxy actors, like his Marvel actors he's worked with before, will probably transition into DC roles at some point in the future, I think that Chris Pratt would actually play a solid Booster Gold. He'll also be continuing as the Star-Lord character in like Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty. Like at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it says the legendary Star-Lord will return. It was meant to be a big joke about how he called himself the legendary Star-Lord in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but nobody knew who he was. So because now James Gunn is taking over DCU, don't be surprised if you see a lot of prominent Marvel actors showing up in DC roles as different characters, but they also continue in other Marvel movies. So it'll be a little bit weird, but not that weird. The other big connection with stuff that James Gunn is already working on is with the Peacemaker character. So Peacemaker and Blue Beetle have a big connection in the comics. He served as sort of a mentor to the young Jaime Reyes for a while. And the funny thing is, really early theory, that might not wind up doing this, but I do think it'd be really, really funny just because Peacemaker is such a ridiculous character. In the comics, they use Crisis on Infinite Earths, this big multiverse movie, to sort of tie up a lot of their continuity and clean things up behind the scenes. After that, going forward, they explained that Psycho Pirate was a character who remembered everything that came before Crisis, before this big hard reboot, in the DCU, like the James Gunn era of DC films. It would be hilarious if they just make that Peacemaker's character and he's the only person that remembers everything from before the reboot because he came from before the reboot. And one of his big character traits is that he's always yelling about crazy conspiracy theories, so it's just totally in character for him to be yelling about a big DC reboot, but nobody believes him, and he's the only one that remembers, and it's actually true. It actually happened.
Superman's an alien. He's got a poop fetish.
What?
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you get this nonsense?
Google.
I'm telling you, Superman used to be completely different. The Justice League looked completely different. What's going on? Why doesn't anybody else remember this? James Gunn did confirm that Peacemaker Season 2 will start immediately after Superman Legacy comes out, but that's not coming out till 2025, so it'll be a couple more years for Peacemaker Season 2. But do not be surprised if you also see him crossing over with the Blue Beetle character, like Blue Beetle showing up at some point during Peacemaker Season 2. This is him actually talking about where the Blue Beetle character sort of fits into the DC continuity just in general, and the Flash movie as well.
The MCU and now the DCU in film, which really doesn't start. I mean, the first DCU character for sure is Blue Beetle, and the first full DCU movie is Superman.
If there were a Lex Luthor in this movie, and there's a lot of other villains, so it may not be Lex Luthor.
And you are the best Lex. Let's admit it. We know you're the best Lex.
Come on, you're being funny.
I'm not being funny. You're definitely the best Lex.
Really?
Definitely.
So what he's basically saying there is that he considers Blue Beetle to be the first real DCU character in the Flash movie, for instance, even though it sets up the big DC reboot with all the multiverse stuff that's happening in the movie. Don't worry, I'll talk about that later this week because some of it does get into spoilers. He's not wrong either. Michael Rosenbaum is one of the best Lex Luthors that they've ever had. He doesn't really consider the Flash movie or Aquaman 2 to be true DCU movies. Once you see the Flash movie, you'll understand what he means by that. It is still very much a Snyderverse movie with some ties to what's happening with the reboot. And even though Jason Momoa said that he's definitely coming back in the DC movies, it sounds like he will be a different character. Right now, it just seems like Lobo, like he's been talking about Lobo. I did a video about it a while ago, too. So as we get more details about that, of course, I'll do videos, and we'll start getting Aquaman 2 trailers later this year, so we'll be talking about it then as well. The way that James Gunn is talking about it, a lot of actors will stay the same, like Gal Gadot is still going to continue to play Wonder Woman, even though she won't show up for a while. What they're going to do is for a lot of those actors that will continue as their characters, they'll just retune their backstories a little bit to fit with what's going on in the backstory of the new DCU. For example, Wonder Woman's backstory going to change a little bit because they're doing that Themyscira series, which is kind of like Game of Thrones with Wonder Woman characters, but set years before Wonder Woman was born, more than 5,000 years ago. So when Wonder Woman does show up in present day after the events of that series, they'll have to retune her backstory so that it makes sense with what's already happened. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. I got a bunch of Flash videos planned, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Also, Marvel's Secret Invasion episodes are starting next week, so it is going to be crazy. There'll be so much stuff going on. Click here for my brand new Superman and Justice League Flash trailer video, and click here for the opening scenes from Marvel's Secret Invasion Episode 1. They posted the full opening scenes. They're actually pretty solid. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.